We're back with Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Unfinished Business, Part 19. Now, when we left off, Angela had taken Q's little power move like a G. He moved all of his stuff out of her house, and she made sure to pack up what was remaining and send it with LJ. She, Regina, and Veronica conspired to get the two best friends together for a one-on-one. LJ played a secret recording that he made when Amora was confessing. And in the end, we still don't know who the pappy is. Q looked at LJ and said, "I'm the father." LJ said, "What?" Q said, "Donovan is sterile. And so is Roderick." LJ bust out laughing. He was like, "Oh, come on, man. I gotta hear this." Q said, "When Donovan was in college, he had a period when he was unmedicated, making stupid decisions, and he got injured. He didn't want to call the Queen Mother and Pops, so he called me. I flew into town, showed up at the hospital, and found out that he had seriously injured his scrotum. Now, everything was still in working order, but the doctor told him that he would never have children. On two different occasions, one time before the wedding, and one time after, Donovan was sleeping with a girl who claimed she was pregnant and it was his. And to do his due diligence, he went and saw a urologist, and the urologist confirmed with a semen sample that he was shooting blanks. This happened twice. Donovan always reiterates that he doesn't want any children, so that the Queen Mother won't get suspicious when he doesn't have any." LJ said, "Wow. But what about Roderick?" Q said, "He got tired of paying for abortions for 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, so he decided to get a vasectomy. I know that it actually happened because he did it when we were roommates, and I was his ride. I dropped him off and picked him up and watched him moan and groan with a bag of peas on his nuts for days." LJ said, "So, wait a minute. Why on earth would Donovan go along with the whole DNA test thing? I mean, Amora told me that she never sent it in, but why would Donovan actually request that the DNA company mail him the results?" Q said, "He probably didn't. That was probably a part of his story. He knew full well that something was up with Amora. He's not dumb. He just pretends to be, man. She told him that she was hiding out from Roderick, so he had to know that she needed anybody other than Roderick to be that baby's father. And since he knew it couldn't be him, he had to know it was mine. For once in that man's life, he actually did something for somebody else. He was protecting her, me, and my son." LJ said, "Man, I've seen him, so I can understand why you would believe that he's yours. But that's not DNA. Not to mention, she said on the tape that y'all wasn't..." Q said, "Man, that girl used to drink like a fish. Her bachelorette party was the day before the bachelor party. Her friends called me back in Greensboro to let me know that she was drunk and disorderly and she needed to be picked up. I drove to Greensboro at 2 o'clock in the morning, picked her up from the club, took her back to the hotel where she was staying, and let's just say I put her to sleep. The next morning, on the way back to the city, she told me she couldn't remember nothing that happened that night." LJ bust out laughing and said, "Man, I'm sorry. I know this isn't funny, but this girl's brain has been twisted upside down for 8 years, thinking that she had a baby with your brother. I don't even understand why she would have him submit a DNA sample if she wasn't going to actually do the test." Q said, "Because whatever Arrington has on her is huge. She couldn't have afforded to have a test out there that proved that I was that baby's father." Q looked at LJ and said, "Do what you got to do with the FBI man. But before you do it, get me a test and make sure that nobody knows. Do this for me. Make it right. And I'll let bygones be bygones." LJ agreed, and then he took Q and all his stuff to his parents' house in Fort Worth. because that's where he had all of the medical equipment transferred to. When they arrived, the equipment, his parents, and the nurse were waiting for him. Queen Bella looked at Q and said, well, you finally decided to make me a grandmother, huh? Q said, Medea, listen, I need you to stay away from Amora and her son. The Queen Mother interrupted him and said, you mean your son? My grandson? Absolutely not. That baby is 8 years old. I missed enough of his life. Nothing but death is going to separate me from him. Q said, that's what I'm worried about. It's way too much smoke in the city. We got to be real careful. LJ is going to get me a DNA test. The Queen Mother said, boy, you don't need no DNA test. I saw that boy and I laid my hands on him. And I know my grandson is my grandson. And I know that you are his father. Q said, right. But Amora's not going to rely on your spiritual gift and your mother's intuition. When I confront her, I'm going to need to have proof. The Queen Mother said, that's fine. LJ, when you get those results, you give them to me. Unopened. Do you understand? Q said, wait a minute, this is my son. The Queen Mother said, and I am your mother. LJ and Q in unison said, yes, Medea. Then she looked at Q and she said, and you make sure that you make it your business to be on that baby Melissa's iPad or iPod or whatever that thing is every single day. Q said, Medea, I planned on it. I can't live without them kids. Then she said, didn't I tell you that Angela was going to have to make some decisions that you might not understand, but you would have to respect? You are a father now, and you have 2 other children who need you. You can't just drop everything and run away when it gets hard, when it doesn't look like what you expected for it to look like. How exactly is running any different than drinking? Over the next few days, Q completes his rehabilitation at his parents' house, while Angela and the children start a whole nother routine. Thank God, children are so resilient. Angela has her meetings with the members of the women's group one-on-one. LJ and Regina get settled in the mother-in-law suite while they wait for the weekend to come so that they can go and collect their children and most of their belongings. They've only been able to come and go as much as they have because Regina's mother is such an active grandmother. She's decided to relocate to Dallas as well, but only after LJ and Regina find a house. Miss Brenda is settling into her new role as the leader of the children's ministry. And on Wednesday, when the family goes to Bible study, Angela meets with Pastor Corey and Deacon Davis afterwards. Pastor Corey asked Angela, so, did you ask LJ to teach you how to shoot? Angela said, no, he has way too much on his plate right now, and I really don't want to add another thing. I was going to ask Q when he was better, but that whole situation has gotten out of hand. Deacon Davis said, I'll teach you. Pastor Corey said, yeah, Deke, great shot. I'd have no problem having him watch my 6 on any day of the week. Angela said, are you sure, Deacon Davis? I would hate to put you out. Deacon Davis said, of course. It's no problem at all. I wouldn't mind. Angela said, okay, listen, in all transparency, I got a little situation and I don't want to lead anybody on. I would hate to find myself in a situation while in a situation. Deacon Davis chuckled and said, Angela, Pastor Corey has already told me that you are off limits, but I don't see any reason why we can't be friends. We're already co-workers and brother and sister in Christ. Angela and Deacon Davis schedule a time to meet for her to learn how to shoot the following day. And when she arrives at the range, she says, listen, Deacon Davis, I need you to understand something. My family is full of shooters. My grandfather tried to teach me how to shoot when I was a kid. He used to take me and my sister into the backyard on his property and bring out 4 or 5 different guns to get us to learn how to shoot and be comfortable with them. And I just could never do it. Guns have always scared me. Now my sister, she a firecracker. That one learned how to shoot and will tote a pistol no matter what. But I just couldn't get past the recoil and feeling the bullet leave the gun. The idea of the damage that a bullet can do to the human body was just too much for me. Deacon Davis said, Angela, I understand. Today, we're going to start with the basics. He then showed her how to load a gun, how to use the safety, how to arm the gun, how to handle the gun when it's loaded and unloaded. And then he told her that you always assume that any gun you encounter is loaded. You don't pull a pistol you're not ready to use. You don't aim a gun you don't plan to shoot. And you have to remember that bullets don't stop until something stops them. So you have to not only be clear about what your target is, but what's behind that target, the endpoint. Covered the different techniques for shooting a still target versus shooting a moving one. Showed her the different ways to operate an automatic, a semi-automatic, and a revolver. Then he had her dry fire each one. He focused Thursday's lesson on simply loading, unloading, and cleaning. The following day, they met again, and this time he had her fire. He had her shoot each gun, and then he had her shoot a semi-automatic .357 until she stopped jumping when the gun fired. By the time she was done, she had a callus on her finger. But she was no longer afraid, and she was confident. On Saturday, Angela held her women's group meeting, and Veronica showed up. Angela welcomed her to the group and thanked her for coming. Veronica observed the group, and she didn't share, but she enjoyed listening to the discussion about the hero's journey and hearing what the women had to say about their individual journeys. She was in awe of Angela's leadership abilities, and she appreciated the fact that Angela didn't speak as if she was perfect, had it all together, and didn't have any flaws of her own. On Sunday morning, LJ and Regina attended 8 a.m. service. Halfway through the service, LJ got up, headed out of the sanctuary, went to a side entrance, and let in a nurse. Together, they walked to the children's ministry, and when they got to the room where Michael was, Miss Brenda let him in. He walked over to Michael, and Michael recognized him. He said, "Hey man, remember I told you that I would introduce you to your dad? Well, this lady here is my friend Jennifer. Jennifer's gonna help me do that. But first, she needs to take this Q-tip that she has and rub it around the inside of your mouth. Are you okay with that?" Michael said yes. Jennifer proceeded, and then LJ and Jennifer left the room. LJ led the nurse out the side door, and then he returned to the sanctuary where Regina was none the wiser.